a world of digital modeling with amps, I do have to say I much prefer to still use microphones. I think there's so much more you can do as far as sounds in a room and different tones, moving mics around to get different sounds with guitars. Also different kinds of mics to use on a guitar cabinet. That's what we're going to be doing in this month's guitar tutorial. We're going to be looking at 3 different mic options. We're going to look at a dynamic microphone, a condenser microphone, and a ribbon microphone. 3 of my favorite ones to use, in fact, on a guitar cab. So first up is the dynamic mic. It's a Sennheiser 906. Now, this is pretty much just a nicer 609 by the same company, only it has a couple dip switches on the actual mic for different high and low pass filters. My favorite setting on this mic is to do the low pass filter switch. So it's just shaving off some of the highs. I think it does a really good job at capturing what the speaker sounds like. And I actually prefer this mic to an SM57. This has been one of my favorite dynamic mics to use on a guitar cabinet. Next up, we have the condenser option for this video, which is going to be a Bee's Knees, awesome Australian company called Bee's Knees. This is their U67 clone. It's a tube condenser. It's very bright, but it has a very, very pronounced mid-range, which you'll hear. I like to use this mic and really any condenser when I'm trying to get like a larger than life guitar sound. And then lastly, for the shootout, we're going to be looking at a Stager SR66. This is an amazing figure 8 ribbon microphone. It sounds incredible. Super dark though, a lot darker than the other 2 microphones, but it has a really soft, warm mid-range and a nice boomy low end. If I was tracking a band or tracking myself and my guitar is going to be kind of the only guitar in the mix, I'm going to be using probably this Stager SR66. All right, now without a backing track, we're going to flip through these 3 microphones and really be able to tell differences between them and where they shine, where I think they fall short, and different applications where I would use each one. Let's start with the 906. So we're just going to go clean. I love that. That sounds really good. Let's move over to the 67 clone by Bee's Knees. Similar high end to the 906 in my opinion. Definitely more mids in the 67 clone condenser. All right, now the Stager. That was really nice. I love that mic on clean guitars in particular. I would say if I was going with a clean sound, it would be either the 906, which actually Bill Frisell one of my favorite all-time guitar players. You know, he's clean most of the time. He uses a 609 live, and watch videos of him playing, and it sounds incredible. And the 906 is just the 609 with those dip switch features. But yeah, I would probably go with the Stager for cleans on this one. Let's just hear it again. Let's do that same thing, move over to the 906. A little bit more brittle, but not in a bad way. Definitely has more clarity on the top. Not as warm though. Let's go to the 67 clone. The mid-range in that is really nice. It has a pretty good boost. It sounds to me like maybe 600 or 700 hertz. And not a bad thing, but for clean, I'd probably go with the Ribbon, which is the Stager SR66, or the Sennheiser 906. Now I'm going to turn my blues driver on. This is the Analog Man one, and we're going to start with the 906. We'll go to the bridge pickup. All right, same kind of thing. I'm just doing basic stuff for you guys so you can kind of hear the differences. Here's the 67 clone. That rocks. That's awesome. The mid-range with the blues driver is so good with that Condenser 67 clone. Let's move on to the Stager. Nice and dark. Pretty cool. Let's do some kind of chunky, kind of doomier riffs. This is the Stager still. That is pretty soupy. All right, let's move over to the 906. Pretty kick-ass. All right, let's go do kind of the same vibe. Move over to the 67 Condenser clone. That sounds really, really good. In the kind of shootout with these three mics, with the backing track, in the mix, I was preferring the 906. However, by itself, man, that condenser, it rocks. That mid-range is just rocking. Killer. Let's move back over, do the same riff, with the 906. And move over to the Stager. Okay, here's what I would do. Live with that rock sound, just blues driver into a blackface twin reverb. We're going to go 906 live. In the studio, 67 clone. Let's go back to the 67 clone. Let's move on to some fuzz. Let's move over to the Stager. Now the 906. I bet that mic kills in a live application. You're giving your audio engineer in front of house a lot to work with the 906. You're not cornering yourself with a super pronounced mid-range like with a condenser, this 67 clone, or the super kind of muddy ribbon sound with this fuzz. So live, yeah, 906 with kind of like dirt and higher gain stuff. In the studio, 67 all day. Now, one thing that I want to do is we're going to go back to the blues driver. Another studio application to consider that everybody does this. I don't do it that much because I'm not that good at it. But a lot of people will use a dynamic and a ribbon mic. You know, get them in phase, get them as close to each other, like away from the speakers as possible, or mic different speakers, which is what we're doing in this video, just to make a fair comparison as far as like all the mics being in the same spot of a similar sounding speaker. In this case, all the speakers are the same in the cabinet. So what I'm going to do, you're not going to be able to see it on screen, but I'm going to solo the 906, and I'm going to also bring in the Stager, and we're going to try to get some warmth back into that sound. The 906 is on. This is our sound. All right, now I'm going to bring up the Stager, and we're going to see if we can get a good blend between the dynamic and the ribbon. Let's mute the ribbon now. Naturally, it's going to get louder. You're duplicating a signal. It's going to get louder. Let's bring back in the Stager. Hold on. Let's hear the 906 first. Stager in now. Now let's compare that blended tone with the dynamic and the ribbon. Let's compare it with the 67. All right, and then let's go back to the blend. That's my favorite dirt sound that we have achieved in this video so far. Sorry for the tuning. Let me fix that up. Let's hear this blend clean. Let's mute the Stager, so we're just hearing the dynamic. Pretty stock, kind of sterile sound, but when you bring in that ribbon, it adds that warmth and that beef to the sound. Let's go over to just the Stager. There's with the dynamic. What you'll need to do when blending microphones, and I'm sorry if I'm explaining something that most of you or some of you already know, you need to really pay attention to the position of the two microphones, because phase will ruin a guitar sound. You can find really cool guitar sounds by playing with the positions and different phase sounds, but 9 times out of 10 for me, I like to use 2 fingers and get the mic capsule and the grill of the cab, and I can either fit 1 or 2 fingers, and that always lets me know that they're the same distance to the speaker, so phase is going to be good. Anyway, I hope that this video was helpful. Again, mics all day for me. I love having different options with amp sims and digital modeling, things like that. Some of them get so detailed where you can actually choose the microphone that you want, the fake microphone or the microphone emulation, and move it around and stuff. Maybe stuff will change in the next couple years. I know it's getting really close, but to me it never sounds like an amp in the room. Maybe it's placebo. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have luck with any of these 3 types of microphones, what you like to do with them in the studio or live, and if there's any digital modeling that you're really, really stoked on that I should maybe know about to kind of sway my opinions. But just to recap, if I was going live, I would just use the 906 because you can beat them up. You can throw them around. I don't want to bring my expensive U67 clone out on tour, even though it sounds incredible. I don't want to be bringing that. The 906 has a similar top end and a nice mid-range that cuts through, more like around 2.5, 3.5K, which is what you're going to need live. In the studio, I'd probably be using the 67 if I was lazy and just wanted to have one mic on the cab. And if I was doing overdubs for myself playing guitar or another guitar player, I might really like to play around with the blend between a dynamic and a ribbon, because there's a lot you can do just by adjusting the faders, and maybe if you're feeling crazy, moving around the microphones. The ribbon microphone, since it's a figure 8, it's really cool because it picks up both sides. So really you're adding depth of the room behind it, and it's picking that up as well. Let's say that you wanted to do the 906 as your close mic and a figure 8 ribbon maybe a couple feet back. That'll add some really cool depth and warmth to your sound. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Y'all have a great week. Cheers.